The blue-white glow of Earth's orbital command station Aegis Prime cast long shadows across Captain Mira Ellis's face as she stared at the holographic display. The distant pinpricks of light, initially dismissed as sensor anomalies, had resolved into unmistakable silhouettes. Ships, hundreds of them, and they weren't answering standard hails. "Tactical analysis," she commanded, her voice steady despite the knot forming in her stomach. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Vance's fingers danced across her console. 500 vessels, Captain. Energy signatures match Irathian warship configurations. Weapon systems. Active. Ellis took a deep breath. In 3 centuries of membership in the Galactic Consual, Earth had never faced a direct military threat. Humanity had earned its reputation as scholars, scientists, and peaceful collaborators, reliable if unassuming partners in the complex dance of interstellar politics. Time to intercept? 12 hours at current velocity. Alert Geneva. Priority channel to Ambassador Patel. Ellis straightened her uniform. And contact General Kane at Citadel Zero. The mention of the classified facility made Vance hesitate. "Captain, that installation is... I know exactly what it is. Lieutenant Commander." Ellis's eyes never left the approaching armada. "And I fear we're about to need it." Beneath the snowy peaks of the Himalayas, in chambers carved from living rock and reinforced with materials unknown to most of the galaxy, General Auric Kane received the alert. His weathered face betrayed no emotion as the encrypted transmission arrived. But the small muscle ticking in his jaw told a different story. For 300 years, humanity had prepared for this day, all while presenting the facade of a species content with academic pursuits and scientific endeavors. 300 years of meticulous deception. "Activate all sleeper installations," he ordered. "Authorization Kane Alpha 7 Omega." Across the solar system, from the cratered surface of Luna to the rust-colored plains of Mars, from the churning storms of Jupiter's moons to the icy reaches of the Kuiper Belt, hidden systems hummed to life. Quantum processors that had been in standby mode for decades began their silent calculations. Gravity manipulation arrays disguised as mining equipment reoriented toward the heavens. And deep beneath Earth's surface, in bunkers unknown even to most of humanity, engineers and scientists who had sworn oaths of secrecy prepared to unveil the truth. Earth was peaceful, but it had never been defenseless. In the Geneva Underground Council chambers, Ambassador Raj Patel's dark eyes scanned the faces around the table, some present physically, others appearing as holographic projections. Each represented a facet of Earth's leadership: political, military, scientific. All wore expressions ranging from concern to outright fear. "An Irathian armada," Patel said, allowing the words to settle over the assembly. 500 warships, approaching on a direct vector. "Why now?" asked the European Union representative. "We've had cordial, if limited, relations with the Irathian Confederation for nearly a century." General Kane's hologram flickered slightly. "The Irathians have been expanding aggressively in the Orion Spur for the past decade. Resources, territory, technological acquisitions, sometimes through diplomacy, more often through intimidation. And now they've set their sights on us," Ellis added from her position aboard Aegis Prime. Patel nodded gravely. "We've received a transmission from their flagship. Grand Marshal Jules Tarek demands an audience." "Then give him one," Kane said, his voice like granite. "Stall for time. The Phase 1 installations need at least 6 hours to reach full operational capacity." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Most council members knew only pieces of what Kane referenced: compartmentalized knowledge. A strategy employed since Earth first encountered spacefaring civilizations and realized how vulnerable a single planet could be in a vast, often hostile galaxy. "If we reveal our true capabilities," cautioned the African Alliance representative, "the diplomatic repercussions with the consual could be severe. We've presented ourselves as scholars and scientists, Kane finished. Yes, and we are those things. But we are not suicidal idealists. The consual accepted our membership because we posed no threat to the established order. If the Arathians destroy us because we refuse to unveil our defenses, our principles will die with our civilization. Patel raised a hand, ever the mediator. We don't know that their intentions are hostile. Let me speak with Tarek first. Ellis's hologram turned toward Kane. While the ambassador engages diplomatically, I'd like to inspect the lunar installations personally. If we're activating Phase 1, I should understand exactly what we're deploying. Kane nodded sharply. Dr. Joe will meet you there. She's the only one who truly understands all the systems. The name sent a ripple of reassurance through the council. Dr. Elena Joe's brilliance was legendary, even among those who didn't know the true nature of her work. For 3 decades, she had overseen the most sensitive scientific developments in human history, projects that, if revealed, would forever change how the galaxy perceived humanity. It's settled then, Patel concluded. I'll arrange the diplomatic channel. Captain Ellis will inspect our defenses. And we all pray this situation resolves without revealing 3 centuries of secrets. As the council dispersed, Ellis couldn't help wondering if prayer would be enough. The Arathian armada had not come to talk. The shuttle journey from Aegis Prime to the lunar facility took less than an hour. Captain Ellis spent every minute reviewing security protocols and technical specifications, absorbing as much as she could about systems that had been deliberately kept from her knowledge until now. The Luna Shieldworks complex, officially designated as a mining operation and research station, sprawled across the Oceanus Procellarum, its white domes gleaming against the stark lunar landscape. Dr. Elena Joe greeted Ellis as she disembarked. The physicist was smaller than Ellis had imagined, with close-cropped silver hair and eyes that seemed to calculate a dozen possibilities with every glance. Captain, welcome to what might be humanity's salvation. Joe's voice carried the crisp precision of someone accustomed to being understood the first time. Or our greatest ethical dilemma. Ellis matched the scientist's brisk pace as they moved through airlocks and security checkpoints. 300 years of secret weapons development. The consual would consider this a betrayal of trust. And the Arathians would consider it their misfortune. Joe replied, without breaking stride. Conventional weapons, even the plasma lances and quantum disruptors the Arathians favor, operate within understood physical parameters. What we've developed here doesn't just counter those weapons. It negates the physical principles that make them possible. They entered a vast chamber that seemed impossibly large for a lunar installation. Engineers and technicians moved purposefully among workstations, while at the center stood what appeared to be an innocuous array of cylindrical columns. This doesn't look like a weapon, Ellis observed. Joe smiled thinly. That's precisely the point, Captain. For 3 centuries, we've hidden our defenses in plain sight. This is a gravitational distortion field generator. When active, it can bend space-time in a localized area, redirecting energy, matter, or light along paths of our choosing. Like a shield? Much more sophisticated. A shield absorbs or deflects energy. This changes the rules by which energy propagates. An Irathian plasma lance traveling through our distortion field would find itself following a curved trajectory, potentially returning to its point of origin without ever touching its target. Ellis stared at the unassuming machinery. And this is just Phase 1? The most basic of our 3-phase defense system, Joe confirmed. Phase 2 involves quantum state manipulation, affecting the fundamental particles that compose matter and energy. Phase 3. She hesitated. Phase 3 is better demonstrated than explained. Before Ellis could press for details, her comm unit chimed. Ambassador Patel's voice came through, tense and measured. Captain, the Arathians have sent their terms. I think you and General Kane should hear them directly. In the communication chamber, Grand Marshal Julteric's image towered over them, deliberately scaled to intimidate. The Arathian's scaled skin gleamed with metallic implants that marked his rank and battle honors. His eyes, vertical slits of amber, regarded the humans with undisguised contempt. Ambassador Patel, I speak not as a diplomat but as conqueror. The Arathian Confederation requires resources and technological patents to continue our glorious expansion. Earth has been assessed as a suitable provider. Patel maintained perfect composure. The Galactic consual recognizes Earth's sovereignty. Marshal Tarek, any resource arrangements must be negotiated through proper channels. Spare me your diplomatic prattle. Tarek interrupted. My terms are simple. Earth will surrender 50% of its technological patents, allow Arathian military bases on Luna and Mars, and provide 500,000 human technical laborers for our shipyards. You have 10 galactic standard days to comply. And if we refuse? Ellis asked, unable to remain silent. Tarek's mouth twisted into what might have been a smile on a human face. Then we will take what we require by force. Captain, your orbital stations will be the first to burn, followed by your major population centers. Earth has no military to speak of. We've observed your science vessels and research outposts for decades. You build laboratories while we forge weapons. Kane stepped forward, his presence commanding even through a holographic interface. We request time to consider these demands. As you wish, General. But know this. We have already dispatched scout vessels to inspect your lunar facilities. Consider it a taste of what's to come. The transmission ended abruptly. Ellis turned to Joe. How long until the lunar arrays are operational? 4 hours, minimum. We've been in standby mode for too long. And those scout vessels? Joe's expression hardened. If they fire upon Luna Shieldworks before we're ready, we'll have no choice but to reveal our conventional defenses, which would only delay the inevitable. The Arathians would summon their entire fleet. Then we need to accelerate the timeline, Kane declared. Dr. Joe, return to Luna immediately. Captain Ellis, coordinate with Lieutenant Commander Vance to track those scout vessels. Ambassador Patel, I'll continue dialogue with Tarek, Patel finished. But I don't expect to change his mind. The Arathians respect only strength, and they believe we have none. As Ellis returned to her shuttle, the weight of humanity's fate pressed down upon her shoulders. For centuries, Earth had presented itself as a peaceful member of the galactic community, focusing on scientific advancement rather than military might. Now, that carefully crafted image might cost them everything, or save them in ways the Arathians couldn't begin to imagine. The Arathian scout vessels, 3 sleek, predatory frigates, approached Luna with arrogant disregard for standard orbital protocols. Their hulls bristled with sensor arrays and weapons ports, currently closed but clearly ready to deploy at a moment's notice. From Aegis Prime, Captain Ellis watched their progress with growing tension. Lieutenant Commander Vance maintained a constant stream of tactical updates, her voice professional, but underlined with anxiety. They're scanning the Oceanus Procellarum region, specifically Luna Shieldworks. Energy readings suggest their weapon systems are powered, but inactive. Ellis's fingers tapped a restless rhythm on her command chair. Status of the distortion field? Dr. Joe reports 70% functionality. They need another hour for full deployment. We may not have an hour, Ellis murmured, watching as one of the Arathian vessels broke formation, descending to less than 5 kilometers above the lunar surface. They're getting bold. As if to confirm her assessment, the lead frigate opened a communication channel. Earth Orbital Command, came a harsh Arathian voice. This is Scout Commander Krell of the Arathian Vanguard. We are conducting a security assessment of your lunar facilities. Any interference will be considered hostile action. Ellis exchanged glances with Vance before responding. Arathian vessel. This is Captain Mira Ellis of Earth Defense Command. Your presence in lunar orbit has not been authorized. We request that you maintain a minimum safe distance of 20 kilometers from all installations. A bark of laughter answered her. Request denied, Captain. We go where we please. Your mining operations and research stations pose no threat to our vessels. The communication ended. On the tactical display, Ellis watched with growing alarm as the Arathian frigate positioned itself directly above Luna Shieldworks. Energy readings spiked sharply. "They're charging weapons," Vance reported, her voice tight. Ellis opened a secure channel to the lunar facility. "Dr. Joe, we have an Arathian frigate preparing to fire. Status of the distortion field?" Joe's voice came back eerily calm. 85% and rising. Theoretically functional, but untested under combat conditions. "Theoretically may have to be good enough," Ellis responded, as the tactical display flashed red. "They're firing!" Through Aegis Prime's high-resolution imaging systems, Ellis watched as lances of blindingly white plasma erupted from the Arathian vessel, streaking toward the white domes of Luna Shieldworks. Time seemed to stretch as the deadly energy beams approached their target. Then something impossible happened. The plasma beams, just meters from impact, began to curve, gradually at first, then with increasing distortion until they traced graceful arcs around the facility, like rivers of light flowing around invisible obstacles. The weapons fire dissipated harmlessly into space, leaving the lunar installation completely untouched. Silence fell across Aegis Prime's command deck. Then Vance whispered, "It worked." On the tactical display, the Arathian vessel hung motionless for several seconds, as if its crew couldn't process what they had witnessed. Then it fired again, a full broadside of plasma lances, enough energy to vaporize the entire complex. Once more, the deadly beams warped and twisted around their target, never making contact. "Patch me through to that vessel," Ellis ordered, unable to keep a note of satisfaction from her voice. The Arathian commander's face appeared on screen, his scaled features contorted with confusion and rage. "What trickery is this?" he demanded. Ellis allowed herself a small smile. "No trickery, Commander. Just science. I suggest you withdraw to a safe distance before we're forced to demonstrate more of our defensive capabilities." The Arathian snarled something in his native language before cutting the transmission. All three scout vessels rapidly ascended, rejoining the main fleet gathering at the edge of the solar system. Ellis immediately opened a channel to Geneva. Phase 1 successful. The distortion field functioned exactly as Dr. Joe predicted. Ambassador Patel's hologram appeared, his expression a mix of relief and concern. "This changes everything, Captain. The Arathians will report what they've witnessed. Grand Marshal Tarek will demand explanations, and likely escalate his approach." "Let him," General Kane interjected, joining the conversation. "Now he knows we're not defenseless, but he doesn't know the extent of our capabilities." "This was merely a skirmish," Patel cautioned. "We've revealed one card from our hand. The Arathians have an entire deck they haven't played." Ellis nodded grimly. "Then we should prepare Phase 2. How soon can the Martian installations be brought online?" From her laboratory on Luna, Dr. Joe joined the discussion. "The quantum twist generators near Mars require precise calibration. 24 hours, minimum." "We may not have 24 hours, Kane warned. "Irathian battle doctrine typically calls for overwhelming force, following any unexpected resistance. They'll send more than scout ships next time." Ellis straightened her shoulders. Decision made. "Then we set a trap. Ambassador Patel, contact Grand Marshal Tarek. Tell him we're willing to discuss terms. Specifically, we'll allow his technical teams to inspect one of our research facilities to verify we harbor no military assets." Patel's eyebrows rose. "You want to invite them into our installations?" "I want them to see exactly what we want them to see," Ellis clarified. "Dr. Joe, Prepare the Red Haven laboratory on Mars. Make it look like exactly what they expect. An innocent research station hiding nothing. Joe's eyes glinted with understanding. With a few special modifications they won't detect until it's too late. Precisely, Ellis confirmed. Let's give Grand Marshal Tarek a science lesson he'll never forget. Grand Marshal Jules Tarek stood on the command deck of his flagship, Imperium's Fist. His clawed hands clasped behind his back as he reviewed the scout vessel's sensor logs for the 20th time. The images defied explanation. Plasma beams, the most reliable weapons in the Arathian arsenal, bending around their target as if reality itself had been rewritten in that specific location. Impossible, he muttered, though the evidence before him suggested otherwise. His second-in-command, Vice Marshal Krell, approached with careful deference. The humans have responded to our ultimatum, Grand Marshal. They request a meeting. Tarek's vertical pupils narrowed. To surrender? Not explicitly. They offer to demonstrate their scientific installations are non-military in nature. They've invited our inspection teams to a Martian research outpost called Red Haven Laboratory. A harsh laugh escaped Tarek's throat. A transparent attempt to delay the inevitable. Perhaps, Krell agreed. But our intelligence has consistently classified Earth as a minimal military threat. Their scientific achievements, while notable, have focused on theoretical physics, biological sciences, and deep space observation. Nothing that would explain what our scout vessels encountered. Tarek's tail lashed with irritation. Then clearly our intelligence has been inadequate. He considered his options. The unexpected resistance at the lunar facility demanded investigation. If the humans possessed defense technology beyond Irathian understanding, it could threaten not just this conquest, but the Confederation's entire expansion strategy. Prepare my shuttle, he decided. I will lead the inspection myself, and order Battle Group Thorn to take position near Mars. If this is a trap, we will spring it, then burn their world to ash. Ambassador Patel received the Arathian delegation at the Mars Orbital Transfer Station with all the ceremony befitting a visiting dignitary, rather than a potential conqueror. Grand Marshal Tarek towered over the human ambassador, his ceremonial armor glinting under the station's lights. His entourage of warriors and technical specialists arrayed behind him like living weapons. Ambassador, Tarek acknowledged with minimal courtesy. I have accepted your invitation despite my suspicions. You will understand if my ships maintain combat readiness during this tour. Patel bowed slightly, his expression revealing nothing. Of course, Grand Marshal. We merely wish to demonstrate that Earth harbors no hostile intent toward the Arathian Confederation. Red Haven Laboratory represents the pinnacle of our scientific achievement on Mars. Transparent, peaceful research. We shall see, Tarek rumbled. My technical specialist will require unfettered access to all systems and data cores. Within reason, Patel countered smoothly. Some experiments are delicate. Dr. Joe will escort your team personally to ensure nothing is disturbed. At the mention of Joe, Tarek's head tilted with interest. The physicist? Her reputation extends even to Irathian scientific circles. I look forward to meeting this intellect. The shuttle journey to the Martian surface passed in tense silence. Red Haven Laboratory sprawled across a vast crater floor, its interconnected domes and research towers gleaming copper red under the pale Martian sun. To all appearances, it was exactly what Earth claimed, a scientific outpost dedicated to peaceful research. Dr. Joe greeted the delegation at the main airlock, her small stature even more pronounced beside the towering Irathians. Grand Marshal Tarek, welcome to Red Haven. I trust you'll find our facility exactly as advertised, a place of learning and discovery, not warfare. Tarek studied her with predatory intensity. That remains to be seen. Doctor, my specialist will require access to your central computing core and power generation systems. Of course, Zhou agreed with a serene smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Follow me. For the next 2 hours, Irathian technicians swarmed through Red Haven, scanning equipment, examining data logs, and dissecting power systems with ruthless efficiency. They found exactly what they expected: laboratories dedicated to atmospheric transformation, geological survey equipment, biological research modules, nothing remotely resembling weapons technology. Until one specialist discovered an anomaly. Grand Marshal, the technician called, his scaled features pinched with confusion. These power conduits, they don't match the schematics. They're routing enormous energy to a subsystem that doesn't appear in any documentation. Tarek's eyes snapped to Zhou, who stood nearby, expression neutral. Explain. An experimental quantum field generator, Zhou replied without hesitation. We're studying particle entanglement across vast distances. Purely theoretical work. Show me, Tarek demanded. Zhou led them to a sealed chamber at the facility's heart. Inside stood what appeared to be a series of concentric rings suspended in a transparent cylinder. Elegant, almost artistic in its construction. This generates a quantum field? The Irathian specialist asked skeptically. A very specific type, Zhou confirmed. It creates a localized region where quantum states are predetermined rather than probabilistic. Fascinating science, though admittedly with limited practical applications. Tarek circled the device, instinct telling him something wasn't right. Activate it. Zhou hesitated. Grand Marshal, the calibration process is quite delicate. Activate it, Tarek repeated, one hand moving to the ceremonial blade at his hip. Zhou exchanged glances with Ambassador Patel, then nodded. As you wish. Her fingers danced across a control panel. The rings began to rotate, slowly at first, then with increasing speed until they blurred into a sphere of light. A low hum filled the chamber, more felt than heard. Quantum field stabilizing, Zhou narrated calmly. Particle entanglement initiating at the subatomic level. Field expansion in 3, 2, 1. A pulse of invisible energy radiated outward from the device. Tarek felt nothing, saw nothing. But the specialist's scanner emitted a sharp warning tone. Grand Marshal, our comms are offline, the technician reported, alarm evident in his voice. Tarek's hand flew to his personal communicator. Dead. What is the meaning of this? He demanded. Zhou's expression remained unchanged. As I said, the field affects quantum states. Communication devices operate on quantum principles. Within this radius, certain particle behaviors are restricted. Restore our communications immediately, Tarek ordered, his voice dangerously low. Of course, Zhou agreed, tapping commands into her console. Field contracting now. The hum subsided. Tarek's communicator chimed back to life. He immediately contacted his flagship. Status report. The response chilled his blood. Grand Marshal, we've lost weapons functionality on half the battle group. Power systems nominal, but plasma lances and quantum disruptors are non-responsive. Understanding dawned with terrible clarity. This isn't a research device, he snarled at Zhou. It's a weapon. Not a weapon, Zhou corrected calmly. A defense system. One that selectively influences quantum states to prevent certain technological functions, like weapons discharge, while leaving life support and propulsion untouched. We have no interest in harming your crews, Grand Marshal, only in ensuring they cannot harm us. Tarek's rage was incandescent. You lured us here deliberately. This demonstration was planned. Just as your inspection was merely a prelude to conquest, Patel interjected smoothly. We merely showed you enough of our capabilities to make our position clear. Earth will not surrender. Earth cannot be conquered through conventional warfare. And Earth harbors no aggressive intentions toward the Irathian Confederation, unless provoked. You have made an enemy this day, Tarek warned, his voice trembling with fury. The Arathian Confederation does not forgive such deception, nor does Earth forgive threats against its sovereignty. Patel replied evenly. You have seen only a fraction of our defensive capabilities, Grand Marshal. I suggest you consider carefully whether this confrontation serves your people's interests. Tarek stormed from the chamber, his entourage scrambling to keep pace. As he reached his shuttle, a new transmission arrived from his fleet. Grand Marshal, the affected vessels are restoring functionality. Slowly. Whatever the humans did appears temporary. Small consolation. In the confined space of his shuttle, Tarek struggled to process what he had witnessed. The humans, dismissed for centuries as scholarly, unassuming members of the consual, had just neutralized half a battle group without firing a single shot. If this was their Phase 2 defense, what else might they be concealing? For the first time in his distinguished military career, Grand Marshal Jules Tarek felt something unfamiliar settle in his stomach. Doubt. Captain Ellis received the report of the Martian demonstration from orbit, where Aegis Prime had been repositioned to monitor the Arathian fleet. 50% of their weapon systems temporarily disabled, she mused. Impressive, but not decisive. General Kane's hologram nodded grimly. Tarek will be furious, but not deterred. The Arathians value conquest above all else. Their entire social structure depends on it. He cannot return to the Confederation empty-handed without risking his position. Then he'll escalate, Ellis concluded. How much time did we buy? Dr. Joe estimates 48 hours before they attempt a major offensive. Their engineers will be working frantically to shield their systems against quantum interference. Ellis paced the command deck, mind racing through scenarios. Is Phase 3 ready? Kane's expression darkened. The Jovian platform is operational, but we've never deployed it at this scale. Dr. Joe calculates a 93% probability of success. But the remaining 7% could be catastrophic. Ellis finished. I understand, but if the Arathians launch a full-scale attack, we may have no choice. There's another concern, Kane added. Our actions have not gone unnoticed by the wider consual. We've received inquiries from 17 member worlds, demanding explanations for energy fluctuations detected near Mars. The Volrani ambassador specifically referenced unauthorized weapons testing in consual space. Ellis grimaced. The diplomatic fallout was beginning, exactly as they had feared. For centuries, Earth had presented itself as a peaceful, scientifically focused civilization. The revelation that they had been developing reality-altering defense systems in secret would shatter that carefully cultivated image forever. Ambassador Patel will need to address the consual eventually, she acknowledged. But not until this crisis is resolved. Our priority must be survival. Agreed. In the meantime, I've ordered all civilian traffic evacuated from the outer system. If Tarek decides to make an example of an undefended outpost, the unfinished thought hung between them, a grim reminder of what was at stake. Captain, Lieutenant Commander Vance interrupted urgently. The Arathian destroyer Judicator's Wrath has broken formation. It's on an intercept course with Stormwatch relay. Ellis's blood ran cold. The weather station, orbiting Jupiter, was, in reality, the control center for Phase 3, the most powerful and unpredictable defense system humanity had ever conceived. They're testing us, she realized, probing for weaknesses before committing their main force. Kane's hologram flickered as he accessed tactical data. Stormwatch is minimally defended by conventional means. If they destroy it before we can activate Phase 3, then we activate it now, Ellis decided. Contact Dr. Joe. Tell her to prepare the space-time displacement field. Captain, Vance cautioned. Civilian researchers staff that station. If something goes wrong, I'm aware of the risks. Lieutenant Commander. Ellis cut her off, though not unkindly. But if the Arathians destroy Stormwatch, billions may die. Sometimes leadership means making impossible choices. As Kane's hologram vanished to relay the orders, Ellis stared at the tactical display, watching the Arathian destroyer's inexorable approach toward Jupiter. The next few minutes would either secure humanity's survival or condemn them all. Aboard the Jovian orbital platform, Stormwatch Relay, Dr. Joe received the authorization codes with a mixture of professional pride and personal trepidation. The displacement field generator represented her life's work, the culmination of 3 decades of theoretical physics pushed to its practical limits. Now, it would face its first combat test. "Begin primary sequence," she instructed her team. The chamber hummed to life. Systems that had been disguised as atmospheric monitoring equipment, revealing their true purpose. At the center, a perfect sphere of what appeared to be liquid mercury pulsed with internal light. "Target acquisition?" Joe asked. "Irathian destroyer designated Judicator's Wrath, bearing 035 range 40,000 kilometers, and closing," reported the targeting specialist. Joe studied the vessel's approach vector. "Displacement coordinates? High Pluto orbit, as specified by General Kane. Minimum safe distance from any inhabited outposts." Joe nodded approvingly. Even now, with their civilization at stake, humanity was choosing the least harmful option. The displacement field wouldn't damage the Arathian vessel or harm its crew. It would simply relocate them, instantly, across billions of kilometers of space. "Initiating field calibration," Joe announced. "Quantum anchors stabilizing, space-time coordinates locked." Her fingers hovered over the final authorization panel. Displacement field active. For a heartbeat, nothing seemed to happen. Then, without warning, flash or sound, the impossible occurred. The Arathian destroyer Judicator's Wrath, a vessel massing over 20,000 tons, simply vanished from Jupiter space. Simultaneously, monitoring stations near Pluto registered the unexpected arrival of an Arathian warship, apparently undamaged, but clearly disoriented. Its systems cycling through emergency protocols as its crew struggled to comprehend what had happened. In Stormwatch Relay's control room, Zhou allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. Displacement successful. Target vessel intact at designated coordinates. Across the solar system, on the command deck of Imperium's Fist. Grand Marshal Tarek watched in stunned disbelief as his tactical display registered the impossible. One moment, Judicator's Wrath had been approaching the human weather station. The next, it had somehow materialized at the very edge of the solar system. A journey that should have taken weeks accomplished in less than a second. "Confirm status of Judicator's Wrath," he ordered, his voice hoarse. "Ship intact, Grand Marshal," reported his tactical officer. "Life signs normal, but they report disorientation. Several crew members experiencing temporal displacement symptoms." Tarek's mind raced. Gravitational distortion fields that could bend weapons fire, quantum dampeners that could disable ship systems, and now, technology that could instantly transport a warship across vast distances without damaging it. The implications were staggering. If the humans could relocate an Irathian destroyer to Pluto with such precision, what prevented them from sending ships directly into stars, or planetary cores, or simply out of the galaxy entirely? For the first time in his military career, Grand Marshal Jules Tarek recognized the taste of defeat, not through superior firepower or tactical brilliance, but through science so advanced it might as well be magic to his engineers. "Signal the fleet," he commanded, his voice leaden with the weight of his decision. "All vessels to stand down from combat posture. Open a channel to Earth Command." His second-in-command stared in disbelief. "Grand Marshal, we still have over 400 combat-ready ships." "Surely, 400 ships that can be relocated across the galaxy at the human's whim," Tarek snapped. "This is not a battle we can win through conventional means. We must reassess." The words burned like acid in his throat. But Tarek was, above all, a pragmatist. The Erathian Confederation had survived for millennia by knowing when to advance and when to retreat. Today, retreat was the only logical option. On Aegis Prime, Captain Ellis received the communication request with cautious optimism. "Put it through," she ordered, straightening her uniform as Grand Marshal Tarek's image appeared on the main display. "Captain Ellis," Tarek began. His normally imposing presence somehow diminished. "I request a ceasefire and immediate parley with your leadership." Ellis kept her expression neutral, though her heart raced with the knowledge that humanity had just averted catastrophe. "I'll arrange a meeting aboard Aegis Prime. Ambassador Patel and General Kane will attend." "As you wish," Tarek agreed, a shadow of his former arrogance. "I have reconsidered my previous demands." When the communication ended, Lieutenant Commander Vance turned to Ellis with barely contained excitement. "He's backing down. We did it." Ellis nodded slowly, the weight of responsibility heavy on her shoulders. "For now. But this is just the beginning, Sarah. We've shown the galaxy what we're capable of. There's no going back from that revelation." 3 hours later, in Aegis Prime's conference chamber, humanity's representatives faced the Erathian delegation across a table that suddenly seemed too small for the momentous negotiations it hosted. Grand Marshal Tarek had shed his ceremonial battle armor for diplomatic attire, a significant concession in Erathian culture, where warriors typically negotiated in full regalia to symbolize strength. Ambassador Patel opened the proceedings with characteristic diplomacy. "Grand Marshal, we appreciate your willingness to discuss peaceful resolution to our disagreement." Tarek's vertical pupils narrowed slightly. "Let us dispense with pleasantries. Ambassador, for 3 centuries, Earth has deceived the Galactic consual about its true capabilities. You presented yourselves as scholars while developing technologies that fundamentally alter the rules of warfare. We developed defenses, not weapons," General Kane corrected firmly. "Earth has never harbored aggressive intentions toward any consual member. Our installations were created for one purpose only: to ensure our planet's sovereignty in a galaxy where militaristic powers like the Erathian Confederation might threaten us." "A distinction without difference," Tarek countered. "Your defenses could easily become offensive weapons. The ability to relocate objects across vast distances could deliver devastating payloads to enemy worlds. Quantum dampening fields could disable life support as easily as weapon systems. You've created asymmetric advantages that threaten the established galactic order." Captain Ellis leaned forward. "An order that allowed powerful civilizations to intimidate and exploit the vulnerable. Earth chose a different path, developing technologies that make aggression impractical rather than attempting to win traditional arms races." Tarek's tail twitched with irritation. "And now you demand our withdrawal and apology. To what end? So Earth can establish itself as the new arbiter of galactic power?" "No," Patel said firmly. "Earth seeks neither domination nor empire. We request only that the Erathian Confederation withdraw its forces from our system, rescind its demands for tribute, and acknowledge our sovereignty. In exchange, we offer continued peaceful scientific exchange and a mutual defense pact against external threats." "Mutual defense?" Tarek repeated incredulously. "You hardly need our protection." "Not protection," Kane clarified. "Partnership. Earth's defense systems are formidable but limited to our solar system. The Erathian Confederation possesses the galaxy's largest conventional fleet, an asset against threats that might emerge beyond our reach." Tarek fell silent, considering the implications. For centuries, the Erathian Confederation had expanded through a combination of military might and strategic alliances. Never before had they encountered a civilization that could so completely neutralize their advantage. Yet these humans offered not subjugation, but collaboration, preservation of Erathian pride and purpose, redirected toward mutual benefit. "I will need to consult with the Confederation Council," he said finally. But I am authorized to order a full withdrawal from your system, effective immediately. A wise decision, Grand Marshal, Patel acknowledged with a respectful nod. As the meeting concluded, and the Arathian delegation departed, Ellis felt a curious mixture of triumph and apprehension. They had averted war, but in doing so, had revealed secrets that would forever change humanity's place in the galactic community. The consual will demand explanations, she said quietly to Patel and Kane as they watched the Arathian shuttle depart. And not all members will be as pragmatic as Tarek. Then we must control the narrative, Patel decided. I'll request an emergency assembly at Equinox Pinnacle. Better to present our case directly than allow rumors and fear to shape the response. Kane nodded grimly. And we should prepare for increased scrutiny. Every research outpost and scientific installation will be viewed with suspicion from now on. Perhaps that's not entirely bad, Ellis suggested. For centuries, we've hidden our true capabilities out of fear. Maybe it's time for humanity to step into the light, to use what we've built not just to protect ourselves, but to help establish a more equitable order. A bold vision, Captain, Patel acknowledged, but one worth pursuing. After all, what's the purpose of developing the power to prevent war if we never use it to foster peace? News of the confrontation between Earth and the Arathian Armada spread across the galactic consual with unprecedented speed. Within days, representatives from dozens of civilizations converged on the neutral station, Equinox Pinnacle, an elliptical habitat constructed specifically for diplomatic gatherings of galactic importance. Ambassador Patel stood at the center of the assembly chamber, Dr. Joe at his side. The circular arrangement of delegation pods reflected the consual's theoretical commitment to equality among member worlds. In practice, the militarily powerful had always dominated proceedings, until today. Distinguished representatives, Patel began, his voice carrying across the hushed chamber. I come before you to address concerns regarding Earth's recent actions in defense of our sovereignty. The Volrani ambassador, a crystalline being whose faceted body refracted light in dazzling patterns, spoke first. You come to justify deception, Ambassador Patel. For 3 centuries, Earth has presented itself as a civilization dedicated to peaceful scientific pursuits. Now we learn you have developed technologies that fundamentally alter the rules of interstellar conflict. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. Earth has never misrepresented its commitment to peace, Patel countered calmly. We developed defensive systems precisely because we wish to avoid the traditional path of military expansion. Our installations were created to ensure our survival in a galaxy where peaceful worlds too often fall victim to those who equate might with right. The Kralin representative, a methane breather whose environmental suit barely contained his agitation, rose from his pod. Yet you concealed these developments from your supposed allies. The consual charter requires disclosure of significant military capabilities. Dr. Joe stepped forward. With respect, esteemed representative, Earth did not develop military capabilities as defined by the charter. We created no warships, no planet-killing weapons, no invasion forces. We developed methods to alter local physical laws, gravitational distortions, quantum dampeners, and space-time manipulators. These systems cannot function offensively. They can only negate aggression directed at us. Semantics, the Kralin sputtered. Your defensive systems could easily be weaponized. The ability to relocate objects across vast distances could deliver devastating payloads to enemy worlds. But we haven't done so, Patel emphasized. When confronted with an Irathian armada intent on conquest, Earth chose the least harmful response possible. We disabled weapons without harming crews. We relocated a vessel without damaging it. At every step, we demonstrated not just technological superiority, but ethical restraint. The Thalaxian observer, representing one of the oldest civilizations in the consual, raised a gnarled appendage. What Earth has demonstrated is the obsolescence of conventional warfare. If your technologies proliferate, the power balance that has maintained galactic stability for millennia will collapse. Or transform into something better, Patel suggested. Imagine a galaxy where aggression becomes impractical, where resources currently devoted to weaponry could instead advance medicine, environmental restoration, cultural exchange. A naive vision, the Erathian representative interjected. Though not Grand Marshal Tarek himself, the speaker clearly represented the Confederation's interests. Some conflicts cannot be resolved through diplomacy alone. Perhaps, Patel acknowledged, but many, perhaps most, conflicts arise from resource scarcity, territorial ambition, or fear. Earth proposes a new approach, selective sharing of our defensive technologies with worlds vulnerable to exploitation, combined with a galactic non-aggression compact that guarantees mutual respect for sovereignty. The chamber erupted in overlapping voices, some outraged, others intrigued. Dr. Joe observed the reactions with scientific detachment, noting which delegations seemed receptive and which hostile. The militaristic coalitions appeared most threatened, while trade federations and smaller worlds showed cautious optimism. When order was finally restored, the consual elder, a position that rotated among member worlds, called for a formal proposal. Ambassador Patel presented a detailed framework. Earth would establish a defensive oversight committee, teaching basic gravitational shielding and energy dampening to allied worlds. In exchange, all signatories would commit to non-aggression and open trade protocols. This is not domination, Patel emphasized. Earth seeks neither empire nor hegemony. We offer protection without control, security without subjugation. The choice to participate remains with each sovereign world. As the assembly adjourned to consider Earth's proposal, Dr. Joe turned to Patel with a raised eyebrow. That went better than expected. The smaller worlds see opportunity in what we offer, Patel observed. The trade federations recognize that safer shipping lanes mean increased profits, and even the military powers realize that adaptation serves them better than feudal resistance. And the Erathians? Patel smiled slightly. Grand Marshal Tarek is pragmatic, having witnessed our capabilities firsthand. He understands that the era of conventional conquest is ending. The question is whether he, and others like him, can reimagine their civilization's purpose in a galaxy where violence yields diminishing returns. A profound transformation, Joe mused. 3 centuries of secret preparations, unveiled in 3 days of confrontation. The real work begins now, Patel reminded her. Technology without wisdom is merely power without purpose. We must prove that humanity deserves the role we've claimed. 6 months after the Erathian confrontation, Captain Mira Ellis stood in the observatory of Aegis Prime, watching as a diverse fleet of vessels approached Earth's orbital docking array. Trade ships from a dozen worlds, diplomatic shuttles bearing cultural exchange delegations, and, most remarkably, converted Erathian vessels, now serving as humanitarian transports for disaster relief missions. Lieutenant Commander Vance joined her, datapad in hand. The non-aggression compact has 37 signatories now. Captain, the Volrani were the latest to join. Ellis nodded, satisfaction warming her chest. And the defense grid? General Kane reports automated nodes active in all major trade corridors. 2 piracy attempts were prevented last week. Vessels simply found themselves unable to power weapons within protected zones. And Dr. Joe's workshops? Vance smiled. Oversubscribed. 17 worlds have sent their top physicists to learn basic gravitational shielding techniques. The waiting list extends 6 months. Ellis turned from the viewport, studying the orbital command station that had been her home for so many years. Once a lonely outpost charged with monitoring potential threats, Aegis Prime had transformed into a hub of diplomatic and scientific exchange. The very name seemed prescient now. A shield not just for Earth, but increasingly for the galaxy itself. "Any word from Grand Marshal Tarek?" she asked. Former Grand Marshal," Vance corrected. "He resigned his military commission last month. The Arathian Council appointed him special envoy for interspecies cooperation. His first proposal was to convert half the Confederation's warships into humanitarian vessels, and it passed unanimously." Ellis raised an eyebrow. Impressive transformation for a would-be conqueror. "He was quoted saying something interesting in his acceptance speech," Vance added. "Something about true strength being measured not by what you can destroy, but by what you can protect." "Sounds familiar," Ellis mused, remembering her own words during those tense council meetings months ago. "He also specifically requested to meet with you on his next diplomatic tour," Vance continued. "Apparently, he has questions about your career path, how a military officer came to embrace defense over aggression." Ellis smiled slightly. "Tell him I'd be honored." She turned back to the viewport, watching as vessels from across the galaxy maneuvered gracefully into Earth's welcoming embrace. "You know, there was a time when I feared being remembered as the captain who failed to protect Earth from invasion. And now I wonder if we might be remembered for something far more significant. The generation that made war obsolete." Beyond the observatory glass, a converted Irathian cruiser docked alongside vessels from worlds that, months earlier, would have avoided each other's territories entirely. Engineers from 3 different species worked together to integrate compatible docking mechanisms, exchanging technical solutions with enthusiasm rather than suspicion. Ellis recognized, in that simple scene, the fulfillment of humanity's longest dream. Not the end of conflict through domination or deterrence, but its transcendence through innovation and cooperation. Earth had revealed its strength, yes, but more importantly, it had demonstrated wisdom in how that strength was wielded. "Peaceful? Yes," she whispered, echoing the assessment that had once made Earth seem vulnerable in a dangerous galaxy. "Defenseless? Never." And in that balance, that commitment to peace secured through ingenuity rather than intimidation, humanity had found not just security for itself, but a path forward for all.